What would drive a woman to shoot her boyfriend 6 times, then casually tell police she gave him the nose job he always wanted? Tonight, we're diving deep into a case that shocked Kentucky and captivated the nation. A story of obsession, jealousy, and cold-blooded murder that would take 2 trials and nearly a decade to reach its final conclusion. Today, we're looking into the twisted case of Shayna Hubers, whose obsession with her boyfriend Ryan Poston led to a murder so calculated, so cold, that it would shock investigators, captivate the nation, and require not 1, but 2 trials to bring justice. This isn't just another true crime story. This is the story of a woman who gave her victim the nose job he always wanted, who danced and sang hymns after confessing to murder, and whose own words would ultimately seal her fate. Stay with me as we uncover every shocking detail of this case, including where Shayna Hubers stands today. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this case involves real people and real tragedy. We'll be examining court records, police interviews, and testimonies to understand how a relationship turned deadly and how the justice system responded. But as we'll discover, the evidence painted a far different picture than what Hubers initially told police. From disturbing interrogation footage to shocking prison marriages, this case has more twists than a psychological thriller. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's explore this complex case that continues to fascinate true crime enthusiasts and legal experts alike. Our story begins in 2011, in the digital age romance of Facebook connections. Ryan Poston was everything you'd expect from a successful young attorney. He seemed to have it all. Born on December 30th, 1982, in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, this 29-year-old attorney was living the American dream. The son of Lisa Carter and Jay Poston, Ryan grew up in a loving family alongside his 3 younger sisters, Allison, Catherine, and Elizabeth. Ryan's childhood was far from ordinary. His education took him around the world, from Blessed Sacrament School in Fort Mitchell to the International School Manila in the Philippines, and even the International School of Geneva in Switzerland during his high school years. This global perspective would shape him into an accomplished young man with big ambitions. After returning to the United States, Ryan attended Indiana University, where he didn't just excel, he dominated. He graduated in 2005 with an impressive triple major in history, geography, and political science. But Ryan wasn't finished yet. He set his sights on law school at Northern Kentucky University in Highland Heights, where he earned his Juris Doctor degree. By 2011, Ryan had established himself as a successful attorney in Cincinnati, Ohio. At 28 years old, he was handsome, intelligent, and financially secure. He had his own condominium in Highland Heights and was building a promising legal career. Ryan represented everything a young professional could aspire to be. But in 2011, Ryan's life took a dramatic turn when he encountered someone who ultimately ended it all. It started innocuously enough, a Facebook connection that spiraled into obsession and death. In 2011, Ryan met 20-year-old Shayna Hubers through social media. Hubers was friends with Ryan's step-cousin, Carissa Carlisle, which made the introduction seem natural and harmless. Shayna wasn't just any college student. She was pursuing a psychology degree at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, about 80 miles from Highland Heights where Ryan lived and worked. She was academically successful, graduating cum laude, and had ambitious plans to pursue a master's degree in school counseling. On paper, she seemed like an ideal match for the accomplished attorney. What started as casual dating quickly became something much more intense, at least from Shayna's perspective. Those who knew the couple described their relationship as volatile, marked by frequent breakups and reconciliations over an 18-month period. This pattern of breaking up and getting back together became a defining characteristic of their troubled romance. Ryan's friends and family later revealed that he had been trying to distance himself from Shayna for months before his death. The relationship had become suffocating, with Shayna displaying increasingly possessive and controlling behavior. Ryan confided in those close to him that he felt trapped and was looking for a way out. The warning signs were mounting. Text messages later revealed Shayna's obsession with Ryan, her inability to accept when he tried to end things, and her desperate attempts to maintain control over his life. But Ryan, perhaps trying to be kind or simply not recognizing the danger he was in, continued to engage with her on and off. This toxic cycle was about to reach its deadly conclusion. October 12, 2012, started like any other Friday for Ryan Poston. He had plans that evening, plans that didn't include Shayna Hubers. Ryan was scheduled to meet Audrey Bolt, the reigning Miss Ohio USA 2012, for drinks at a bar in Milford, Ohio, at 9:30 p.m. It was a date he was genuinely excited about, and one that represented his attempts to move forward with his life. Ryan had confided in his stepfather, Peter Carter, about this upcoming date just the day before. He was nervous about telling Shayna, knowing how she might react to the news that he was seeing someone else. This fear would prove tragically prophetic. Somehow, Shayna discovered Ryan's plans. Whether through her own investigation or confronting him directly, she learned about his date with Audrey Bolt. What happened next in Ryan's Highland Heights condominium ended his life and changed hers forever. At approximately 9 p.m., just 30 minutes before Ryan was supposed to meet Audrey, Shayna called 911. Her voice was eerily calm as she reported to the dispatcher that she had killed Ryan Poston in self-defense. When first responders arrived at the scene, they found Ryan's body riddled with 6 gunshot wounds. The crime scene told a disturbing story. Ryan had been shot multiple times, including wounds to his face that would support Shayna's later shocking comment about giving him the nose job he always wanted. The positioning of the body and the trajectory of the bullets raised immediate questions about Shayna's self-defense claims. Meanwhile, Audrey Bolt waited at the Milford bar, wondering why Ryan had failed to show up for their date. She had no way of knowing that the man she was supposed to meet was lying dead in his own home, killed by a woman who couldn't bear the thought of him moving on without her. What happened next became some of the most disturbing and memorable footage in true crime history. Despite being read her Miranda rights, Shayna Hubers voluntarily chose to speak with police. What she said during those hours in the interrogation room would haunt investigators and prosecutors for years to come. Shayna initially stuck to her story of self-defense, claiming that Ryan had been abusive throughout their relationship. She painted herself as a victim who had no choice but to kill her boyfriend to save her own life. But as the hours wore on, cracks began to appear in both her story and her demeanor. During the interrogation, Shayna made shocking comments. When describing Ryan, she called him very vain and then delivered a line that would become infamous. She said that by shooting him in the face, she had given him the nose job he always wanted. The casual, almost gleeful way she delivered this comment sent chills through everyone who heard it. But Shayna wasn't finished. She also made other revealing statements, including, "I don't know if anyone will ever want to marry me if they know that I killed a boyfriend in self-defense." This comment suggested she was already thinking about her future romantic prospects while sitting in an interrogation room with her dead boyfriend's blood still fresh on the scene. The most disturbing behavior was yet to come. After being left alone in the interrogation room for several hours, Shayna began to exhibit behavior that suggested her grief and trauma were far from genuine. Security cameras captured her pacing around the room, dancing, and even singing Amazing Grace. Her movements were casual, almost celebratory. But it was her audible comments to herself that truly revealed her state of mind. She was heard saying, "I did it. Yes, I did it. I can't believe I did that." More damning still, she added, "I'm so good at acting." These statements suggested that her entire performance for the detectives had been just that, a calculated act designed to support her self-defense narrative. Based on this evidence and the crime scene investigation, Shayna Hubers was arrested for murder and held on a $3 million bond, an amount that reflected the severity of the charges and the strength of the case against her. Shayna Hubers was indicted for Ryan Poston's murder on December 20, 2012. On January 16, 2013, she entered a plea of not guilty, setting the stage for what would become a lengthy legal battle. Unable to make her substantial bail, Shayna remained in the Campbell County Jail for 2.5 years before her trial finally began on April 13, 2015. The prosecution, led by Michelle Snodgrass, built a compelling case around motive and premeditation. Their argument was straightforward. Ryan Poston wanted to permanently end his relationship with Shayna Hubers, and she killed him rather than let him go. To support this theory, prosecutors presented extensive text message evidence that revealed the depth of Shayna's obsession with Ryan. The witness testimony was devastating for the defense. Carissa Carlisle, the step-cousin who had introduced Ryan and Shayna, testified that Ryan had been actively trying to avoid conflict with Shayna and was seeking ways to end their relationship. She read text messages that Ryan had sent her, showing his growing desperation to escape Shayna's grip. Peter Carter, Ryan's stepfather, provided crucial testimony about Ryan's state of mind in his final days. He testified that Ryan had confided in him about the upcoming date with Audrey Bolt and expressed fear about telling Shayna. This testimony established Ryan's attempts to move on and his awareness that Shayna posed a threat to those plans. Audrey Bolt herself took the stand, describing her planned evening with Ryan and how she had waited for him at the bar, unaware that he was already dead. Her testimony humanized Ryan and showed the future he was hoping to build away from Shayna. Perhaps most damaging was the testimony of Cecily Miller, Shayna's former cellmate. Miller testified that Shayna had bragged about killing Ryan, laughing about shooting him in the face and giving him the nose job he wanted, confirming the callous attitude she had displayed during her interrogation. Even more revealing, Miller said that Shayna had discussed legal strategy with her, initially planning to plead insanity but deciding against it because she believed she has the IQ of Einstein. Instead, she planned to use battered wife syndrome as her defense. The defense maintained that Shayna was a victim of domestic abuse who had killed Ryan in self-defense. However, they faced an uphill battle given the physical evidence and Shayna's own recorded statements. Notably, Shayna chose not to take the stand in her own defense, relying instead on her police interrogation tape where she maintained the killing was justified. On April 23, 2015, after just 5 hours of jury deliberation, Shayna Hubers was found guilty of Ryan Poston's murder. The jury recommended a 40-year prison sentence. 4 months later, she was officially sentenced to 40 years with parole eligibility after 20 years. The presiding judge made it clear that he did not believe Shayna was a victim of domestic violence and had considered imposing an even harsher sentence. Just when it seemed the case was closed, a stunning development changed everything. Shayna's defense team had filed for a new trial, and on August 27, 2016, their motion was granted. The reason was both surprising and legally significant. It was discovered that one of the jurors in Shayna's murder trial was a convicted felon. Under Kentucky law, convicted felons are prohibited from serving on juries. This juror had failed to disclose their criminal background during jury selection, which was grounds for overturning the conviction. Despite the overwhelming evidence against Shayna, she got another chance to argue her case before a new jury. The retrial was initially scheduled to begin on September 18, 2017, but legal maneuvering caused multiple delays. Shayna's new out-of-state attorney requested and was granted a 6-month delay to prepare for the case. The second trial finally began on August 8, 2018, nearly 6 years after Ryan's murder. The second trial brought new revelations and strategies. This time, Shayna's defense team went into more explicit detail about her alleged sexual relationship with Ryan, building their case around the assertion that he was an abusive boyfriend. Shayna herself took a more active role, providing what prosecutors called lurid details about their intimate relationship. But perhaps the most shocking development wasn't what happened in the courtroom, it was what had happened while Shayna awaited her retrial. In June 2018, just 2 months before her second trial began, Shayna married fellow inmate Unique Taylor, born Richard McBee Jr., in a ceremony at the Campbell County Detention Center. Taylor was a transgender woman who was also facing serious charges, including a 2016 murder charge. This jailhouse marriage made headlines and raised questions about Shayna's motivations. Was this genuine love found in desperate circumstances, or was it another manipulation designed to garner sympathy? The timing, right before her retrial for murder, struck many observers as suspicious. Despite the new defense strategy and the personal developments, the second trial reached the same conclusion as the first. After 5 hours of deliberation, the jury again found Shayna Hubers guilty of murder. This time, however, the sentence was even harsher. On October 18, 2018, she was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after serving 20 years. The marriage that had captured headlines during the trial didn't last long. Shayna filed for divorce from Unique Taylor in January 2019, just 7 months after their wedding. The divorce was finalized in March 2019, with Shayna citing irreconcilable differences. Court documents revealed that the couple hadn't spoken to each other for nearly 2 months before their divorce was finalized. Shayna's legal team didn't give up after the second conviction. They appealed to the Kentucky Supreme Court, but their efforts were unsuccessful. In September 2020, the Kentucky Supreme Court upheld Shayna Hubers' life sentence for murder, effectively ending her legal options for overturning her conviction. Today, Shayna Hubers remains incarcerated at the Kentucky Correctional Institution for Women in Pewee Valley, Kentucky. According to current prison records, she will be eligible for parole in 2032, having to serve a minimum of 17 years of her life sentence. She is now in her early 30s, serving time for a crime she committed when she was just 21 years old. The case has continued to generate public interest and has been featured on numerous true crime television shows and documentaries. The combination of the shocking interrogation footage, the dramatic trials, and the bizarre jailhouse marriage has kept this case in the public consciousness years after Ryan's death. Ryan Poston's family has largely stayed out of the public eye since the trials concluded, choosing to focus on healing and remembering Ryan for the promising young man he was rather than the tragic way his life ended. They have found some measure of closure knowing that Shayna will spend decades in prison for her crime. The Shayna Hubers case offers troubling insights into the psychology of obsession and domestic violence. While Shayna claimed to be a victim, the evidence suggested she was actually the perpetrator of psychological and emotional abuse in the relationship. Her inability to accept rejection, combined with her manipulative behavior and lack of genuine remorse, painted a picture of someone with serious psychological issues. The case also highlights the importance of recognizing warning signs in toxic relationships. Ryan's attempts to distance himself from Shayna, his fear of her reaction to his new relationship, and the volatile pattern of their on and off romance were all red flags that escalated to lethal violence. For those studying criminal psychology, Shayna's behavior during and after her arrest provides a textbook example of narcissistic personality traits and manipulative behavior. Her casual attitude toward Ryan's death, her attempts to garner sympathy, and her calculated legal strategies all suggest someone more concerned with her own welfare than genuinely traumatized by having taken a life. The murder of Ryan Poston represents the ultimate consequence of unchecked obsession and controlling behavior in relationships. What began as a casual Facebook connection spiraled into a toxic relationship that ended with 6 gunshots and a young man's promising future cut tragically short. Shayna Hubers will spend the next decade and a half behind bars, eligible for parole only when she reaches her late 40s. By then, Ryan Poston would have been in his 50s, potentially with a family, a thriving legal career, and decades of life experiences that were stolen from him by someone who claimed to love him. This case serves as a stark reminder that domestic violence can take many forms, and that the most dangerous time in an abusive relationship is often when the victim tries to leave. Ryan Poston's attempts to move on with his life ultimately cost him everything. What do you think about this case? Do you believe Shayna's claims of self-defense held any merit, or was this clearly a case of premeditated murder fueled by jealousy and obsession? How do you think cases like this could be prevented in the future? And what did you make of Shayna's behavior during those interrogation tapes? Was she genuinely in shock, or was she putting on an act as she later admitted? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know what other true crime cases you'd like me to cover. Remember, cases like this remind us that behind every true crime story are real people whose lives have been forever changed by violence and loss. Don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth true crime analysis, and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we dive into another case that shocked the nation. Until next time, stay safe out there.